This program item is called Mistakes We've Made in Role-Playing Games. And this is a stolen idea from Nordic LARP conference Knutpunkt, where Rasmus or something like that, however you pronounce his last name, he's Danish, has this program item every year. And I politely stole this from him. He talks about mistakes in LARPs. We talk about in role-playing games, but actually this time only also in LARPs. When we do role-playing games, when we go to LARP, when we do a tabletop campaign, when we organize Ropecon, we do mistakes. And we do mistakes for many reasons, of course. Really? We do mistakes because we did not know. We didn't think about it. We didn't know, for example, that on Tuesday when the logistics is driving stuff away from Dipoli, Dipoli is closed. There is nobody opening the doors. For example, this could happen, but we would have known that if we would have been reading or contacting Dipoli earlier. We did not plan. Well, I'm organizing a LARP for 300 people. They don't need toilet paper, right? Or food, right? And then they will get so hungry that they kill a sheep. Planning ahead. Yes, we don't do that. Or we just don't care. Yes. We don't care that the sleeping arrangements in the LARP are so that everybody is going to cut down some trees and leaves and so on and use them as a mattress. And then they're going to destroy the forest around your LARP, and then the owner of the forest is going to be very angry and you need to pay money. Or you're never welcome there again. Or if that person is your father, that gets awkward. But why do we share our mistakes? Like, seriously, why do we do that? It's embarrassing, right? Other people know that I'm now be making a mistake. I'll be late from my program item. Or yeah, they don't think so highly of me, if I've been doing mistakes. But that's not really the case. Because when we are bold enough to actually share our mistakes, or mistakes that other people have made, that's okay, you can share them too, that's funnier. Or, I knew this person who made this mistake once, not me, no. But anyways, why do we share mistakes is that other people can learn from it and they don't really need to do those mistakes again. And we like to do it in here, in this program item, with a matter of laughter, humor. We will be sharing our stories and laughing about them with you. They are insane. We've been doing some very pretty bad mistakes or very funny ones. Maybe, I don't know what my guest speakers are really talking about, so I'm hoping that they're sharing something great and fun. Yeah, I could just tell you a little story about logistics. I was once organizing this LARP in Finland on the Christmas day. That's the great day to organize a LARP. Like everybody is going to come to a LARP in the first Christmas day, right? Well, we had around 50 players, so we had enough people coming to the LARP. And we had one car for logistics from Helsinki to Mikkeli, which was very great too. And I calculated, yeah, I'm a big girl. I can carry everything into that car. I can carry everything out from that car. Yes, and that was true. But I didn't calculate that I'm going to have a German person in the car too, with me. A German LARPer coming to a Finnish LARP. I didn't know him that well, and yeah, I didn't calculate that he should fit in. Taking consideration that I was the main organizer, or the other main organizer of the LARP. Yeah. And I ended up putting him in the car under fake corpses, fake burnt bodies, and he was sitting in the car under the bodies, in the back seat, in a car that broke down in the middle. It was minus 30 degrees outside, and this old Volvo decided that heating doesn't work in this cold weather when the car is too much full of stuff. So, yeah, he had fun. Also, most likely the police car had very much fun when we slowly strolled past. And also the car broke down so that in the end the German guy needed to actually drive it up to the location when I couldn't anymore. So yeah, plan ahead. If you're going to have a car full of stuff, plan that the car can actually handle that weight and also get a ride to the German guy. Maybe about logistics, maybe about food, is the next mistake that my friend Ville-Emeli Miettinen is going to tell about. He also scheduled my program items today so that I just came from the previous one and had a time for 1 cup of coffee, but that's it. Please welcome Ville-Emeli.
It's still on. Yeah, I'm talking into this cube. Okay. Screw the mic, I'm talking into the cube. So, yeah, I'm Vemeli, and I'm, oh yeah, this isn't one of those meetings. So anyways, when Massi asked me to come to speak to a program item, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be famous. And then he's like, it's this one where people made mistakes. And I immediately thought of you. I'm like, shit, it's not fun at all. So anyways, I've organized a few things, so I'll tell you something educational and something fun. Not so educational, maybe educational. But to start with, I think one of the biggest mistakes I have personally made in these few years was last year when I was organizing food and logistics, well, mostly food, for a big military LARP in Finland last fall. And I got called to like, yes, can you do the food? And I was like, yeah, how many people? Yeah, like 90 something. Oh yeah, I can do 90 something. I think I've done 50 something sometimes. So 90 something, 50 something. That's like really, you know, the thing times 2. No, but still. So I went there and I was like, I contacted the organizers. Yeah, you're gonna get like another chef. There's gonna be these great kitchen things. Everything will be, you're gonna have people to help you. You're gonna have ferriers to ferry the food. And I was like, yeah, this will be a piece of cake. We went, we bought the food, everything was hunky-dory, everything was really fine. And when I went to the spot and I had no second chef, I'm like, shit. I'm gonna have to cook for 90 people alone. Yeah. No. And I was like, hey, where are the 3 guys that are supposed to help me? Oh yeah, I'll call them. And then one guy shows up. Whoop. Shit. That's 1 person. That's not 3. I might be an art student, but I know basic math. That's 1 person. Shit. It's like, okay, well, let's make the food. And we make the food because the LARP's on Saturday and it's Friday. And I make the food until 2 a.m. And it's all in the boxes. I name the boxes. I label the boxes. It's like, this is for the civilians. This is for the military people. This is for the NPCs. Important part. Remember this later. And I stow it all away in the refrigerators. I set this great tray up with loads of cereal and all whatnot, breads and shit, for the NPCs. And I place a little placard on it called the NPC breakfast. And I go to bed after a sauna and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wake up at 9 and do some more work. And I do that. And I come back on the morning and yeah, the breakfast is gone. Great, they ate it. Everything's fine. I start making the food and heating it and preparing it. And at some point we get like, yeah, so the food's gonna be now, it's about approximately like 15. So we're not gonna start the feeding of the players. Feeding. Anyways, get sidetracked by weird words. Anyways, and it's like, yeah, so they're a click that way. He's like, what? Yeah, the players are 1 kilometer that way. And I'm like, yeah, the food's right here. It should be 1 kilometer that way? Yeah, it should. Oh, how are we gonna move that? Nobody told me we were going to move the food for 100 people for 1 kilometer that way. It's a big area. And I was like, what the hell am I going to move it with? Well, then he found me some sort of wheelbarrow-y thingy, whatever, with 2 little wheels, and then there's the one guy pushing the wheelbarrow. And I was like, okay, well, we'll put the food on the wheelbarrow. It's like, well, how are we going to divvy it up? Because I've prepared for food for 90 people. But, the civilians, there's like 50 of them, so 25 are there, 20 are there, then there's the group of 5 over there, and I'm like, shit, well, I got 3 big boxes, so we're gonna, I don't know, somehow divvy them up. Plus we got 1 wheelbarrow. So anyways, we get the food, and we start moving shit around, and in some sort, I get back there, people try to do their jobs. I was supposed to also LARP. Never do that. Never, ever do that. If you're going to make food in a LARP, don't even try to think of going like, yeah, I can play as well. Yeah, I could totally play. So, but no, not gonna happen. But anyways, I got the food there at some point, and then some people had too much food. Some people didn't have enough. For some people, the food was cold, because I had to carry it for the 1 kilometer, once again, with the friggin' wheelbarrow. And for some people, it was warm because it was closer by. And then we had people with special needs for their food because they only eat half-cooked dormice. With carrot. It's like, yeah, sure, I got some friggin' dormice here. Why didn't you inform me of it? Yeah, I was gonna. Oh. Yeah, you know, because I was also gonna make the food, but I didn't. Because I didn't know. But the player was really cool with it, and I made that player something that wasn't dormice, neither with rice or carrots, but they ate it, they were content. So always double, triple check everything. And it's like the shittiest part here was that I would have been able to get myself 3 people to cook besides me and 5 people to carry the stuff, and 1 billion wheelbarrows like drop kicked from space orbit onto the game site if I would have known about it. So really, think about it when you have these things. And if you're the main organizer, as in this game it was, they forgot to mention this little tidbit to me. I was like, yeah, the other guy canceled. Should I call the other guy? Nah, I'm gonna go for a beer. But still. And then that was the educational part. And then I have the really hilarious one. This is also a really good thing to remember if you're LARPing in a LARP. I was in a Turku LARP. That's a genre of gaming where you have these weekend-long LARPs that last for the whole weekend in the Turku city center. And I had borrowed a friend's flat for it, because it was like a cyberpunkish, occultistic, whatever, fantasy, whatnot, nonsense game. And I was playing a goblin, because that's really smart. And I had another friend who was also a goblin, a third friend who was a gnome. And we were all, because this is completely logical, folks, we were dealing weapons and firearms and, bombs. So we prepared for a lot. We made these huge posters of cutouts with bomb building instructions and these cutouts of weapons. We had lots of airsoft pistols. We bought this red crepe paper, which we put over the lamp so we could have this red cool porno lighting in the flat we borrowed. And then we set it all up. We had the bomb instructions. We had this little mind map with lots of names crossed out. Everything was really hunky-dory. We only ate pizza for the whole weekend, so we had 20 pizza boxes around. And it looked like a really like a criminal dingy den. The whole place was like, yeah, this is badass. And then I get woken up at 3 a.m., off game. My friend says, oi, our friend got an epileptic seizure, do something. He's completely panicky, like, what? And I'm like, well, I was woken up at 3 a.m. And I just wake up, yip, go like, slap, no, nothing. Can I find a medicine? No, I call the ambulance. Then I call the ambulance, like, hello, blah, 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 ambulance, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll come down to see the ambulance. And then I go down the stairs to the outside, and I open the door, and then there's this nightclub on the other side of the street. And there's people smoking. And I was like, what? And then I'm like, yeah, what the hell are those guys staring at? Yeah, keep staring, bozos. And then I see the ambulance coming, beep, bop, beep. And then I realize I'm having these goblin ears. Like, shit! Fuck! Oh, no. Oh, the flat. Oh, God. No. And then the ambulance comes, woo, hello, we are the ambulance people. I'm like, yeah, okay. He's upstairs, and we have this little thing called LARP, and there's these things, this and that, and then we walk upstairs, and then we open the door to the flat with the porno lights, and the weapons on the tables, and the bomb building instructions, and the mind maps. And on the top, to top it all, is my friend there having this epileptic seizure on the sofa in elf ears and underwear, and he's shaking, and it's like, so this is what we do. Yeah. And I'll top it off still. This had a happy ending. Eventually we found his meds. Everything was nice. And then my friend comes out the room. He was a bit drunk, obviously. So, and they called, the ambulance called up the air. We got his medicine. Everything's fine. And he walks around in this kitchenette and this. And he's like, yeah, it is a bit weird. I was like, ooh. It's like, yeah, I don't think they're drunk. And then my friend pops out the bedroom, like, I'm a bit drunk. It's like, I kick him in, I close the door, and I say, yeah, we're completely sober. And then the advice the ambulance people gave us was, remember to drink water and when you have these games. So that's my bit, thanks.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, I went to Norway to LARP 2 weeks ago, and the experience I got from there is that simulating sex in a live-action role-playing games with people who have not been having sex before is also awkward. Our next speaker is known from a little bit romantic genre LARPs, but she's now going to talk about mistakes she made. Katri.
Hi. Okay, thanks. So my name is Katri Lassila. I've been organizing LARPs since 1996, 1997 when I started doing it in Quebec, Canada. And that's happy for all of you because I made a lot of mistakes there, but I will not talk about them. I stay strictly in Finnish circles. Here in 1998, I was along with Timo Multamäki organizing this second Wanderer LARP. I don't know if any of you has LARPed there in Wanderers, but it was a big thing back then. Cyberpunk, we had rented the whole Outokumpu mine for it. We had over 1,000 players in 5 different countries and so on. It was a huge thing back then. And so, as always, we had a little bit difficulties to have people writing characters for it. I was head organizer for the world in Wanderer 2, and I had said that, of course, I will only organize the world part and I will not write any characters whatsoever. So the first mistake I made then was to write 60 characters during one very long night. After that, I haven't tried that anymore, and I hope you never have to try it either. The quality of the characters is easy to guess. So after that, I thought that, okay, maybe it's better to stay in a little more, like a little smaller games. And with Laura Kalli together, we created this adventurous romanticistic style. In which we searched for the place and the innocence of our childhood. We went through Sherlock Holmes and we went through pirate adventures, Treasure Island. We took some Indiana Jones along and so on, this kind of pulp LARPs. And the second of this series was One-Eyed Pirate, inspired by the Treasure Island. And we organized it on an island. If possible, do not organize LARPs on islands. At least if only available boat is a rowing boat. And you have more than 50 people playing. So the first mistake on the island was that we lost our players. We had marked there an area where the players were supposed to stay. But of course, we hadn't marked it quite well enough. There was some red tape around some woods, easy to miss. And we had about 50 players, more or less. And at some point, we were with Laura, we were there in the main area, and we were like, okay, where again are our players at the moment? And nobody knew. So then we started looking for them, and we found out that they had wandered like all the way to the other side of the island on the area where there was a nudist beach. So that was kind of good. Well, I learned to mark the play area very well after that. The second mistake on the same game is to bury the treasure so deep that players aren't able to find it, which we also made in that same game. So we thought that maybe it would be wonderful to have this huge pit, and then we had this huge chest full of gold coins and whatnot, and then we buried it during the night before the game started in the horrible rain, and we dug and we dug and we dug, and we had this huge hole, and then we put it there, and we drew a map, and everything was fine. And then at the point when players were supposed to, of course, find this treasure, it was hidden so well that nobody found it. So we decided to go there and say, "Oh my God, what's there? I think I saw some gold maybe shining there. Players, come here." And then after some time, one of them got the hint, so to say, and they found it. So just as an example, many of the practical mistakes I've done, and of course lots more. But I thought that maybe I could also use this opportunity to talk about these like more philosophical mistakes I've done. And the first of them is this kind of ongoing hope that through writing LARPs and designing wonderful LARPs, wonderful games, somebody would notice you. I would say here that please do not write LARPs in that hope. Because nobody really notices what you're doing. I mean, apart from the 30 players you have in the game, and then the next week they kind of forget all about it. So if you want to have fame and acknowledgement through your work, do something else. Like, you can write role-playing games, like tabletop games, and publish them, or you can go on your real careers. If you're not like doing it for real, I mean the game industry, then like I decided to put my effort of fame and fortune in designing very small budget documentary movies. Maybe I'm not too good with this whole concept of fame and glory. So the next philosophical mistake, as Massi also mentioned, has been always that I've been stressing too much and I've been delegating too little. As Finnish woman, I've been able to do everything by myself. Everything, I mean everything. Digging all the holes for the treasures and carrying all the rocks for Indiana Jones's magical monuments and whatsoever. So, so during these years behind me, now when I look back, I would say that the most important part is not to stress too much, because otherwise you are not able to enjoy yourself, the LARP at all, what you are doing, what you are writing, what you are inventing. And that takes me to the last part, the part that the most important is the process in LARP, not the result, which I learned only a couple of years ago when I started to design this Valve LARP campaign, which ran for 3 years in Helsinki City, which I made together with Petri Leinonen and Antti Kanner and Tuomas Hakkarainen. And we understood during that process that really the process is the one which is fascinating. And we have to make everything as game writers, as game designers, to make that part the most influential and the most important part of all. Because the result, the game, it will be over in a second. And nobody remembers it anymore. But the process, it will stay in our minds. And it will give us pleasure, like over and over again. It will teach us things. So nowadays I tend to compare LARP to mandala, where the making process of the mandala structure is everything that matters. And then in just some seconds, a fleeing moment, it will be destroyed. But the process, it's all that matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Katri. When I was planning this program item for this year, I was doing the, yay, I'm having 3 speakers again, it's going to be fantastic. And then I contacted the speakers, and the 3 speakers were like, yeah, great. And the next time I contacted the speakers was on Tuesday. Maybe not that clever, because one of them had totally forgotten and is not even arriving to Ropecon. So where I had been, relying on that she will come and talk, she's not here. But luckily, even though he had maybe a little bit too much beer yesterday and arrived to his own program item earlier this morning 2 minutes late, Mikko Pervilä is going to talk about some mistakes.
Joo, en kestä Ropecon ilman beer, jos tiedätte mitä tarkoitan. So I went to this LARP once in Denmark, which was aimed for about 150 players, and the most important part, let's cut the audio on that. The LARP was about this refugee camp set in a very Kafkaesque surrounding where 150 players were basically living among these huts made of spare construction materials, and you can see here 1/4 of the camp, which is basically submerged in 11,000 liters of water. So wherever you kind of step down, you have to be very careful, because all of that black stuff you see on the ground is actually water. And this part of the camp was basically put on these Euro-type pallets, so you could walk around and try to kind of keep your feet dry, so to speak. And the most prevalent thing about the LARP was this camp. I mean, that took something in the order of 3 weeks to build for the crew that was organizing the game, and it took in the order of 1 week to dismantle for a whole separate crew. Yeah, that's me. So this is the thing that kind of people remember from the Capo game. So I'm not funny as the 2 others, so I'm gonna tell you about the really boring mistake that I made in this game. And the idea is that this game was held for 4 types of characters, and let's see now. Yes. So we had 4 types of characters in this game. The first one of the crews was called the Builders, and what the Builders do is, of course, they build. And the idea is that the crew was building the camp for the entire duration of the game. So they had power tools and hammers and nails and stuff like that. So they were constructing new stuff in the camp all the time and dismantling some other parts. So there was ongoing stuff for 1/4 of the players happening all the time. And this is, of course, solid, really good gaming material. I mean, it's easy to see that this is the kind of material that you want to play with in a LARP. And this will lead me to my mistake, which is, of course, material which people don't want to play with in the game. And I'll get to that very soon. Now, the other crews were called the Chalkers. So basically, these guys had lots of paints. So they were painting all around the game all the time. And they were doing these ritualistic decorations like graffitis with their hands only. So they were basically finger painting all the materials that the builders built during the game. Also very good material, also very solid gaming content, because you have a thing that you can do in that game, and you will spend up the entire 48 hours of the LARP doing this, so it's good material. Then the third was the Rats. These guys were stealing all the materials they could find, basically taking whatever was left in the camp and then trying to kind of, take all that they could find. They also lived in the walls of the camp. There were actual secret passageways in that camp so that these guys could move around in 2 different floors so that they could pop up in other parts of the camp. So this is 3 of the 4 camps in that game. Really solid gaming material, really good content. So the 4th, what are the 4th guys? The 4th guys are called the Normalized, and these are, if you will, the Malkavians of that LARP. So they are the crazies, the people who didn't really fit in that refugee camp either. So what do these people do? Really good question. I was part of the 48 player characters in that game, which meant that we designed all the manners that our team or our camp operated with. So what did we do? Massi, could I have that document? So, yeah, sorry. What did we do? We invented this, again, Kafkaesque mode of operating for the normalized, which is basically that these people, we thought that we were scientists. So what we did is we measured everything that the others did and tried to figure out averages. So we made a big table of a specific activity, for example, how fast are they building, and then we measured exactly how much each person in that activity was doing stuff and made an average. And then we calculated from that average the deviation per player or character from that operation, and from that we derived a basic score, which was a plus or a minus, I mean above the average or below the average for that character, and then we inserted that score into the permanent record for that character. So anybody is still following me? No. Exactly. So this is what we thought that would be a good gaming material for 1/4 of the players. And what of course happened was that even our own people who had committed to this, who had practiced this, started kind of not doing it. Yes, thank you. Started not doing it from maybe, let's say, okay, Max. I can't use Max. Scrolling, yes, I can scroll. So here we have the well-known formula for the average function. So the idea is exactly what I told you, and then you have a table. So here we go. We have a heartbeat frequency, which is the sample we did, and then you have the deviation from that sample. And then here you have these calculations which derive the difference from that average, and then you kind of introduce all of this into the permanent record. So maybe, let's say, 3 hours into the game, people stop doing this. And it's, of course, easy to see now why, because it's mind-numbingly boring. And that's the whole point. I mean, this is the very epitome of Kafkaesque bureaucracy for its own purpose. And it looks really good because there's like 8 pages of this shit that I wrote. This is my text. Oh. Yes, there we go. So there's like 8 pages of this background material. So it's basically a handout on its own. And you can imagine the amount of paper we were kind of pushing around in that refugee camp because we didn't have A4s. No. We had some kind of post-it notes and shit like that we kind of tried to scribble these measurements on, and which yields to the fact that we had an insane amount of paperwork in that camp, which got stolen by the rats. In like maybe 5 hours. And after that, it's really difficult to invent that, yeah, what are we doing now? Our entire record got stolen. So how do we get it back? So we went there and tried to negotiate that we could maybe deal with the rats and get our record back for a trade of maybe dried bread or something like that. So you can imagine that 1/4 of those players had a mind-numbingly boring experience in that game, despite the really excellent buildings and the camp and all of that, just because we didn't really think this one through. And people didn't really behave the way we intended, because it's always easier in a LARP to kind of break something than to construct new stuff. So if you give something like this to the players, you can expect that maybe in 30 minutes they will start breaking it and not doing what they were supposed to do. And you can only blame yourself, because if you give something like this to the players, then, you know, maybe you should have thought it a little bit better to begin with. Yes, that's maybe the biggest mistake I have made while LARPing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko. I was also in that LARP. It was fantastic, but I was building stuff, so that was great. I had the best LARP ever. But here we are, we're done. We've been sharing mistakes. I hope you learned something, at least I did. And if you want to share your mistakes next year for Ropecon audience, please tell me. I will give you the space. Thank you.
Ropecon.